Hello and welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and today I'm going to be talking about how long was Rick Grimes actually missing in the Walking Dead timeline. And it's not as simple as you think, because the Walking Dead timeline is this massive mess. It is not just this takes place in this year, this takes place in this year. No, this franchise retcons itself all the time. So today we're going to sit down and actually try and calculate how long he's actually been gone, because there is still a lot of confusion around what the timeline is. So this is the correct way to look at the timeline in my opinion, and I'll be going off everything we know from the show, not from external factors. If we see a year in the show, that is where, in my eyes, this season takes place. So the first thing we've got to figure out is, when did Rick leave? We've been told a lot of things, and famously the first 8 seasons of The Walking Dead only take place within the first 2 years of the apocalypse, but season 9, the first 5 episodes, we know has to take place a year and a half after that. And as we know that The Walking Dead started, or the apocalypse should I say, started at the end of August 2010, we're looking at Rick's disappearance, which I've looked up for figures, and I've seen figures all over the place. Like years ago, it was 1,207 days in. The new figure on the wiki is now 1,301 day, and says that Rick disappeared on the 17th of March 2014. However, that is wrong, because 1,301 days in is actually the 20th of March 2014, but you get the gist. Rick disappeared in about February, March 2014. I don't know where they got the 1,207 days in, just because that would mean that it takes place at the end of 2013, which makes sense why people believe in the 2013 year all those years ago, but it's very clear that those episodes do not take place in a winter setting, they take place in a spring setting, so it makes sense for Rick to disappear in March 2014. And now we know when Rick leaves, we can now finally start to count how long he has been gone. And immediately, as soon as he leaves, we get a 6-year time jump, taking us to 2020. Rick has been gone for 6 years. And season 9 is very clear, 2020. However, season 10 is where all the issues happen, because a lot of people say it takes place in 2021 and throughout the entire year. However, if we're looking at what the show tells us, the show clearly tells us with the final episode of season 10, Here's Negan, it takes place in 2022, with Here's Negan saying 12 years earlier. And that means by this time, when Michonne finds Rick's boots and leaves to go find him, it is 2022 and Rick has been gone for nearly 8 years. Moving on to season 11, and things are looking worse because there are multiple time jumps. Part 2 starts in October 2022, but that is one of a 6-month time jump, and by the end of those time jumps it is March 2023 until the final episode, where it jumps yet again to spring summertime 2024. So that means by the end of The Walking Dead, Rick has been missing for going on 10 years, and Michonne has been out there looking for him for more than 2. Now moving over to The Ones Who Live, as this counter keeps going. The Ones Who Live has a lot of timelines and time jumps, but we're going to focus on Michonne's aspect of the story, as Rick is all over the place with 5 years after the bridge, 6 years after the bridge, 12 years after the bridge. With Michonne, we pick up with her right as she leaves The Walking Dead. And as we know, because of Here's Negan, season 10 has to take place in 2022. Michonne's story starts in 2022. We then get her attacked by the CRM and her spending a year in the mall, which leads us into 2023. But I do have to say, it is not defined very clearly how long she was in the mall. It's just implied more that it's more of a 2023 deadline than a 2024. But episode 5 then states that this show actually has to take place in 2024 because of the Gabriel flashbacks, with the second flashback of Gabriel saying 2 years before, and in that scene, Gabriel talks about the Whisperer War. The walls fell and they're on the brink of starvation, which means that that flashback, which is 2 years before, takes place in part C of season 10, which we know is at the end of 2022. That means that this show has to take place, in fact, in 2024, not 2023, which is what it makes you think it could take place in. And because we know that his name is near the end of the year, maybe about September, this show is a winter show. It's very obvious with the trees having no leaves. So this takes place right at the end of 2024, maybe going into the start of 2025 at a push. And this is not done. There is yet another time jump right at the end of The Ones Who Live, and is an undisclosed time jump. It could be a year or something like that, but I think it's only a couple months. We know it's a time jump because the helicopters, one, their symbols are different. It's no longer the CRM symbol, it's now one circle. And when Rick finally reunites with his family, with his children, it is obviously no longer winter. The trees have leaves. It is obviously in the spring 2025. So that means by the time Rick reunites with his children and he's no longer missing, it has been 11 years. Rick has been gone for 11 years by the time he reunites with his kids. However, if you want to count how long Rick has been missing up until Michonne finds him, it is just over 10.5 years as they reunite in the back half of 2024 between September and December. And that is my video and my estimates for how long Rick has been missing. It's either 11 years or just over 10.5. So please tell me down below, do you agree with my estimates or do you disagree? I know The Ones Who Live would highly disagree with me because that show heavily retconned the timeline to try and say Rick has been gone for maybe only 9 years at most. However, I am not going to go off of The Ones Who Live. I'm going off the fixed dates that we got in The Walking Dead and other parts of this franchise, not just going off of how old RJ is. But please tell me down below, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? How long do you think Rick Grimes was gone? See you later. Talk to you in my next video.